Hey, this is Dale Sellers. Thank you so much for supporting the 95 podcast. Carolee and I really appreciate the way that you've stood with us and shared it, and it's continuing to grow, and we just are so thankful. As we come to the end of the summer, we're going to take a couple of weeks off and do what we call a podcast recast and share two podcasts that just had such impact. One was with Hamp, as she shared her story about trauma. And then we're going to have our friend Marty Sawyer's, the podcast that we share with him from the Full Strength Network. We're going to share those two podcasts with you. And then in a couple of weeks, we'll be back live with all new material. So thank you so much for sharing the podcast, for supporting it, and for being there for us. I hope you wrap up your summer really well, and you're so excited about what God's going to do in your life and through you over this fall season. So we're going to take a quick break, and then afterwards, we will share the podcast recast.
So if you were to look at your congregation or just go to a grocery store and count 1, 2, 3, 4, abused, not abused. Like that's what we're walking amongst. And I think there's definitely a couple of things to look at. I think one is like, we don't want to know because it's so painful. It is so hard to look at it and actually think that there's that many cruel people, hurt people. They also have a choice whether or not they're going to. And when they do, it's like, okay, it's so big, it can be daunting. But then I also think in the church, there is this belief system that if you just pray hard enough, and if you just have enough faith, you're going to be healed.
It'll all go away. It'll
all go away. And your pain is making me uncomfortable. I need you to pray more. And then when you say that, you're actually abusing them.
You are.
That's trauma. That's spiritual abuse. And because you're telling them that they don't have enough faith, like they don't even have a mustard seed. Like you don't get to have a mustard seed, right? So if they make it their responsibility. I don't know if Bob on his podcast talked about the abuse cycle, but it is a inappropriate assignment of responsibility to another person.
Be sure to check out the full episode of the 95 podcast by going to 95network.org/podcast.